Let's get it. Janelle and Robyn are not just arch enemies, but in my position, I think they're arch nemesis. And the difference between the two is that in literature, arch nemesis are actually characters who share the same or similar power set, or they share the same origin story, they come from the same place, and the only real difference is their ideology, how they approach certain challenges or issues that arise in their life. In Janelle and Robyn's case, these two ladies have more in common than any of the other sister wives. They both entered into the marriage or the relationship with Cody Brown from a position of divorce. These two ladies were both previously married to someone else, and how they entered into the Brown family and why they entered into the Brown family couldn't be more different. Now, in Janelle's case, Janelle was married previously to Mary's brother. Once they were divorced, obviously because she's married to Mary's brother, she knew Mary and she was familiar with Cody. They developed a relationship. They began courting when the two of them were building their family or building the interest in one another to get married. And Cody had proposed the idea of her entering into his family as a second wife. Janelle's mother actually came into town to find out what was going on with this whole polygamy thing, met Cody's father, fell in love with him, and they were actually married before Janelle and Cody were married. So in a weird way, Cody and Janelle are actually stepbrother and stepsister, as crazy as that is. But they have a history together. They have a knowledge of one another. Janelle was introduced or knew about Mary prior to the engagement and prior to the romantic aspect of that lifestyle. On Robyn's end, Robyn was also married. She, unlike Janelle, came in with 3 children. So she had kids there in her previous marriage. When she came into the marriage, she met Cody and Robyn, according to the storyline, in very short order, and decided that she was going to get married to Cody. Now, the funny thing is that Cody and Robyn were married only 9 months after Robyn was divorced, or her divorce from her husband was finalized. Which means that there is a possibility that these two had kind of knew about each other and were interacting with each other while Robyn was either married or freshly divorced, very freshly divorced, meaning by like a couple months or so. So the way they approach the family from that perspective is very, very different. And this struggle, I think, is at the root of many of the problems that occurred in the Brown family, especially later on. And all the way from season 2, where Janelle became way more vocal about her feelings about Robyn coming into the family, all the way through to season 17, where there seems to be a lot of stress. And hopefully this storyline will be explored a little more in season 18, where Janelle is viewed as finally leaving the family and how that all took place. Now, before I get into it, I would simply ask that if you guys are enjoying the content, that you give me the thumbs up to let me know that I'm doing a good job. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, what are you waiting for? It's easy to do. It helps the channel out, it helps me out, and hey, who doesn't want to help a brother out? So go ahead and give me that HBO special by clicking the subscribe button and ringing the bell for notifications. You'll be notified when I upload new videos, as well as when I very soon, hopefully, go live. Because even with this particular subject matter, there is an embarrassment of riches where I was pulling certain clips and I would try to tape this thing and I had to get rid of it because it was like an hour long, you know what I mean, a few times, and it could have went longer. And this is after I'm trimming stuff down. It's like 35 minutes. So please subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified when I go live, and we can have a more in-depth conversation even about this subject matter as well as other shows that are on TLC. Without further ado, let's talk about where we are and what I do have and what I'm presenting as far as this particular versus battle. Janelle, being the person that she is, and again, we have to look at the family of the Browns as a unit. So when each member of the Brown family has contributed something along the way with regard to the Brown family's success or them staying together or how they function. For instance, Cody is the breadwinner. He helps to pay for the mortgage, he helps to pay for the utilities and some other things, and he gives the wives what he can give them, when he can give it, I guess. Right? It's very, it's a little weird how Cody's money works. But when we look at Mary, she also was working. She didn't make as much, admittedly, from Mary. Again, embarrassment of riches. She didn't make as much money as Janelle did or Cody, so she paid what she could. Although she worked and maintained employment, that's her role. She was also kind of the enforcer as a functional part of their relationship, but we can get into that later. Christine, obviously, she took care of the kids. And ironically, Christine even worked, and we found that out in season 17, where she would work overnight and needed Cody to watch the kids, and he kind of rebuffed her, saying, well, I mean, your 10-year-old had it. I don't understand why that was a problem. Aspen could do it. Why was it an issue? Why would I want to go downstairs and check in on my kids? I mean, that's stupid. That was pretty much Cody's response. So each one of the family members played a role. Now, Janelle, she played an integral role because Janelle was also one of the breadwinners, a huge breadwinner, and she was the one who was responsible to make sure that the mortgage, like Cody, was being paid, as well as the big utilities and a lot of the big bills, and distributing her funds to the other sister wives to make sure that they had the things that they need. And this is a huge role for Janelle, and this is pretty much how she defined herself. And she played by the rules, because even as she would describe, as I have in one of the other clips, she described it, why wouldn't I get to go to work and I get to work myself and have a professional career and my kids are being taken care of? Why wouldn't I just hand my check over? So that's what she was doing. She was a provider, and she was also the person who was controlling and monitoring the money, making sure that the bills got paid. Cody, even though he would go out and make the money, I have the distinct impression, especially from the clips that I pulled, that Janelle was the one who was making sure that the bills got paid, writing those checks to make sure that the bills got paid. But when you start to talk about bringing in another person and you're barely getting by, then it starts to ask questions, and you start to develop a natural conflict because you have two opposing ideologies bumping heads against one another, and that's what you have in the case of Robyn and Janelle. Let's listen to Janelle as she describes her feeling about Robyn coming into the family.
I mean, there's no bones about it. I was very worried about the financial, and I really did not see how the dollars and cents were going to work.
I can see that.
I mean, we were struggling to keep the roof over our own heads, and we were going to bring this person in and pay rent and groceries, and there was going to be no income coming in. I was worried.
And this is a very logical thing. I will be worried too. Like, if we barely getting by, and all of a sudden, like, hey, let's have some more kids. We can't have more kids. What are you, insane? And especially, hey, why don't we bring in another adult and their 3 children into our family, and we're barely getting by now. We're barely staying one step ahead of the mortgage man. But we're going to go ahead and risk it by trying to rent another home around the corner so that Cody can have his carnal needs met. Because, again, Robyn wasn't contributing anything as far as the finances were concerned to the family. And I will take this a step further. It's no secret that Robyn didn't have or maintain a job throughout her marriage with Cody. And when she entered into the Brown family, she came down from where she was living at into the Brown family situation. She didn't come down with a whole stack of cash and a whole bunch of money. Only thing she came down with was debt, and she came down with kids and mouths to feed. That was it. So it's my understanding that when this idea was presented to the family from Cody and possibly from Mary and even from Robyn, that she would be entering the family, that she would come down and she would pull her own weight and she would get a job. How do we know this? Again, embarrassment of riches. I had to make a hard choice on which clip I was going to show, and I'm going to show this clip. Let's take a look.
I am hopeful that Robyn will get a job. She has been looking. It's not for lack of looking.
I was hoping that Robyn would get a job. She's been looking. Where was she looking? Under her bed? In the closet? Like, where was she looking for this job that she could never find one? Over years and decades of being married, she could never find a job. It's incredible. I don't understand how that works. And it's like the part of the insulting nature of it is that Janelle is so worried about the family and how the family is going to do financially. And Cody had no issue with coming in and putting this weight on her. And more to the point, Robyn who's supposed to be super sensitive to everybody's needs and everybody's wants, everybody's desires, and how her presence is going to affect them, didn't have any bones about coming down and taking advantage of the family. In fact, when Janelle was talking about moving Robyn down from where she was to Utah so Cody wouldn't have to drive, and that's gas and it wear and tear on the vehicles and everything else, and running the risk that he wound up in a ditch on the side of the road trying to drive all these hours to go see Robyn. She wanted Robyn to move into the Lehigh house above her. She was ready to cut her part of Lehigh house down in half so that Robyn and her kids could have a place to stay, and she wouldn't have to come off of the extra money, which makes total sense for somebody trying to mine those dollars and cents and make sense of this situation. But Robyn, of course, didn't go for it because she was too hoity-toity and couldn't stay in the place with a married man. But she had no problem with this married man driving down to see her for 5 hours and spending a week or weekend at her house with her kids. She didn't have no problem with that, but she couldn't be viewed as being some kind of slut. What are you talking about? Like, it just makes no sense. Now, when we talk about what contributions Robyn was actually putting forward into the family, we have to look at, like I said, there are certain things that each one of the family members was doing. And this is where it gets kind of confusing, where a lot of people think that there was a natural rivalry between Robyn and Christine. I say that there was a point where Christine was the model for Robyn. Robyn tried to model or fashion herself after Christine and did, pretty much what Christine did. So when she came into the family, Christine was the person who was watching the kids. Robyn steps into the family. She becomes the person who's going to watch the kids for the family, and that gives her license to stay home. Let's take a listen to how Robyn thinks that her contributions are being made or met by watching the kids.
There's days I'll have, Janelle's kids over, and she's come over and pick them up and stuff, and it's like, I'm just in my mind just going, please help her to see what value I am with this family.
And that's part of the issue. I have no problem with her coming into the family and wanting to add value to the family and try to do something for the family because the family is being so generous towards her. What I do have an issue with, however, is the subtle manipulation that is occurring between Robyn and the family. She's trying to use Janelle's kids to show Janelle how valuable she is. So you're not watching Janelle's kids because you feel some kind of compassion or love or caring for them. You're watching Janelle's kids as a means to an end. And I think that it's these very subtle things that made a lot of people look at Robyn as the subsequent villain with regard to her image as far as the sister wives are concerned. I don't mind what you do, but it's why you did it. And that's where a lot of people kind of drew the line, and they came up with the conclusion that Robyn was not the person that she pretended to be. The whole time, Robyn tries to put on this air that she's a sweet, kind person who cares so much about the family. But as everything turns, everything that has to do with Robyn is always about Robyn and nobody else. Now, when we look at it, we have to ask the question, midway through the season of season 2, moving into season 3, there was a whole big explosion about what the family was going to do. There's some kind of investigation. They have to pack all their stuff up and they have to run out to Vegas. And keep in mind, like I said, financially, the family was barely holding on when they moved Robyn down and Cody married her. So when they have to leave the town where they're based to move to Vegas around nobody that they know, and they move to Vegas and they're alone and they're living in a rental property, this puts a lot of stress on everybody involved, particularly the person who is the financial person in the family, which is Janelle. Because again, how you view these challenges and how you approach these challenges and your ideology is what makes this an arch nemesis situation. Because on one hand, you have Janelle, who looked at this situation and she thought that, with our limited resources, how are we going to make things work? And let's take a listen to how she describes her situation moving from Utah to Las Vegas.
Our resources are finite for sure. It's scary.
We've got
She looked beat down.
limited resources to actually make it work. And so we've got another big challenge.
Look at what Cody's wearing.
Money is a big problem right now. We all lost our jobs with the move. We want to use our retirement to start a family business, but we really just don't have any idea what we're going to do right now.
There's a couple points in that. First, they said that we want to start our family business. How are they going to start their family business? They're going to pull from their retirement. Does this mean that they're going to use the pension that they've been paying into for whatever company they've been working with? No. That means that they're going to pull out of their 401k, which also means that they're going to be penalized on taking that withdrawal. Anytime you take money out of your 401k, it's basically almost like taking a loan out where they're going to tax the hell out of you for taking money out of your 401k or your retirement. So they were willing to do that because they lost their jobs moving from Utah to Vegas. So if you were going crazy with a job and established money that you already had in a home that you were paying for and you were living in for a long time, you moved to Vegas partially because, let's be honest, they moved to Vegas not just because the police were coming down on them, because that's not a real thing, because nobody has ever stopped an investigation, a criminal investigation, because you moved. If the DA thinks that they have a case, they go before the judge, they gather the evidence, go before the judge and get a warrant sworn out, then the police get a free trip to Vegas to come lock your ass up and bring you back to Utah. That's how the criminal justice system works in America. But if we pretended that's the case, what happened once they moved to Vegas? Once they got to Vegas, they all were dispersed. So if anything, it put Robyn on an even keel with the rest of the family, because until they moved to Vegas, Robyn was living apart from the family and was the only wife that was living apart from the family. The rest of the family was living pretty much together, which means that because they were under the same roof, each one of the wives had access to Cody, at least in some small part, while Cody was in that one big house. But once they get to Vegas, all of a sudden, Cody is dispersed, the family is dispersed, and Cody is spending a lot of different times with a lot of different people, and they pretty much get Cody all to themselves. Robyn more specifically, because she didn't have that before, at least on an equal footing. And the reason why I said, look at what Cody is wearing. In this next clip, this is how Robyn responded to moving to Vegas. Now, keep in mind, we just watched Janelle have the guttural response of, I don't know how we're going to do it, that we can't afford to do it. We're in a lot of trouble financially. We don't have jobs. We're using our 401k, and I don't know how we're going to spend the money. We're cutting quarters everywhere we can, and she looks haggard and beat down. Janelle had never worn glasses prior to this interview, but now she's sitting there with glasses on because she didn't want to do contact lenses or whatever, and she looks like she's been crying, and it's heartbreaking. But again, watch. This is the same day that Cody sat there and talked about how fragile the finances were. This next clip is him talking with Robyn about their plans for Vegas.
After Robyn and I got married, I really wanted to have more children.
What?
And so I was pressuring Robyn a little bit to consider, we can have a baby now, can't we? We weren't ready.
That's stupid.
No.
The minute we get to Vegas, we're ready now.
We've waited for so long. I mean, we had been married for, was it 10 months?
A long time. But now that we're in Vegas.
Oh my gosh.
Now that we're in Vegas, because we waited forever, like a whole 10 months, trying to figure out our finances. But now that we in Vegas, we free to duplicate ourselves. Copy button. Are you stupid? This is the part of polygamy that everybody is against. Cody and the family have, prior to this, and I guess later on, in season 5 and 6, when they were meeting with people and having the big discussions about polygamy and wanting to be accepted by the masses and the mainstream and all that other stuff, one of the things that people don't like about polygamy isn't the fact that you guys get to make a decision about what you do and who you lay down with as adults. One of the big problems that many people, including myself, have with the concept of polygamy is that it fosters a situation where you go out and you make a bunch of kids that you can't take care of. And instead of you taking responsibility for the responsibilities of being a parent, you go out and make more kids with different people. I no more support the idea that you could do this with quote unquote wives as I would if a guy was saying that he wanted to go out and have a bunch of baby mamas. To me, it's the same difference. And I can understand that, in some situations it works, just like in some situations a guy could have 5 baby mamas running around and everybody get along great and the kids are completely healthy. Is this a standard that you want to shoot for? Is this something that you should just consider to be socially acceptable because in this one particular exception of a case it works? And that's where the whole issue with polygamy starts to come in. You start to see the damage, especially when you have people who are not fiscally responsible for making sure that their family is okay. And that's what I saw in that clip. Now, we'll update it to season 17, where we start to talk about assets. Now, of course, there's the point where Janelle was saying as an independent woman, she finds herself in a very stupid position because she has contributed so much money to the family without thinking about her financial future or what was going to happen with her kids, that she finds herself in a position where she doesn't have anything. Robyn, in the same situation, comes in, she's not working at all, and she has everything. So you have one wife in Janelle who is doing everything by the book the right way, and she gets screwed. And you have Robyn who technically did everything the wrong way, and she has everything, and she's winning. Let's take a listen to how they describe the assets that the family Browns or the wives would have moving forward.
We all are owners of the property. Our names are on different pieces of the property. We actually all do have an asset. My home does have Cody and I's name on it.
This is what we were talking about as far as like a plethora of riches. I had a whole bunch of stuff with this, but one of the things that I wanted to focus on was they're talking about Coyote Pass. Now, if you look at diagram of Coyote Pass and the parcels as they exist currently on Coyote Pass, what you'll see is there are the orange, the green, and the purple. The orange display that you see is everywhere or every parcel that Cody and Robyn's name, in some cases, Robyn's name via Cody because they're married. Any property that Cody purchases automatically has Robyn's name on it as well, because that's just the way real estate works. If you're married, you can't go off and sneak off and buy property without your wife being attached to that property or having rights in that property as an asset. So all these assets that Robyn was so proud that everybody had a piece of the pie out there at Coyote Pass, if you look at it, Robyn and Cody essentially own Coyote Pass. All that orange is all Robyn and Cody. The green on that one section in the middle where Janelle's house was going to be, it has Mary's name on it. That's the only piece of property up there at Coyote Pass where her name appears. The 2 properties where Robyn's house or Janelle's house is going to be built, as well as the property where the lake, those are the only 2 pieces of property that are completely paid off. The other 2 pieces of property where they have an outstanding balance as far as their loan is concerned, those 2 pieces of property are still owe money. And as you can tell, only 1/2 of the property to the far left has Janelle's name on it. So Janelle owns a bunch of stuff, but she doesn't own anything, which means that if she needed to take money out from this property, if she wanted to put a loan against any of her assets or holdings on Coyote Pass, she couldn't do it. And this is also part of the challenges of being in a polygamous marriage, because the husband by default has financial control over his wife. If Janelle walked away from the marriage, she's walking away with nothing. And in Robyn's case, if she walked away from the marriage, she gets half of everything. The same way Christine was saying, if we gonna do halvesies, then I get half of everything. Everything that Cody had. No, you don't get half of everything, because that's Robyn's position. That's the benefit of being the legal wife. The last part of what she said, Robyn, was, I have a house and it has me and Cody's name on it, on my house. There's a point where we have to ask the question, how did you get the house? You haven't worked at all. You couldn't find a job. You still looking. You still looking for the job. That's why they live next to the woods, because maybe the jobs live in the woods and she can catch one early morning when the dew is on the ground. Robyn can run out there and catch a job in the ferry running through the woods. But when push comes down to shove, how did she pay for her house? This is how Janelle described how Robyn was able to pay for her home.
Honestly, I gave half the proceeds from my house in Vegas to Robyn to help purchase this house that she's in currently. We also at that time pulled a lot of money from the joint family account to help get her into that house.
So essentially, Robyn didn't pay anything for the house that she's living in currently. if Janelle gave half her money so that she could afford to live in the house, Mary also gave half her money to help buy Robyn's house. And with those two big contributions, still wasn't enough. All of a sudden, they take money from a huge amount of money from the family fund, which is basically the TLC money, so that Robyn can buy this house. Robyn is making out like a bandit. But when it came time for Janelle to be able to have her house built, we got to pay the land off that has nothing to do with the place where you were going to have your house built, but we have to pay off everything so that Robyn can feel like she's being totally fulfilled. Because again, we're going to pay for those assets on that property so that Robyn has half of all those assets as well, plus the house that she's living in. So Robyn is going to be winning on top of winning on top of winning. And that's the difference in ideology and how they approach this situation and how they approach the family, which creates a tremendous conflict, and I hope that they explore this during season 18. And speaking of season 18, in the season 17 finale, of course I could pull up the clip where Janelle describes her relationship with Robyn as the ultimate or consummate counselor. Oh, Robyn is the counselor. Like, she sits there and try to explain how Cody is feeling and what's going on with Cody in these different relationships. Like, she knows a lot and she's some kind of therapist. But the reality of the matter is that when it comes to problems or issues within the family, Robyn, like Cody, claims ignorance to everything that happens around her. She pretends as though these things are not real and are not happening so that she doesn't have to deal with them. For instance, when they were at Mary's house and they were having a conversation about Janelle building on Coyote Pass, which is why they went out there. That's why she wanted to get her butt out there on the property. All of a sudden, Robyn and Cody ambushed Janelle with the whole topic of whether she was going to be loyal to the family. And when Janelle responded by saying, look, I'm loyal to my kids, and if Cody doesn't want my kids around, then I'm not going to come around. I'm not going to be divided between my kids and this group. If it's a decision between the two, my kids win every time. Bravo for Janelle looking out for her family and finally getting the point that she has to start looking out for herself because nobody she's dealing with is looking out for her. And this is one of the things that Janelle had to say as well as Robyn had to say. So we'll go with Robyn first, and then we'll go with Janelle's response to Robyn.
I really don't know what's going on. I'm trying to catch up here, and I really want to understand because I feel like this is something we can get fixed.
You know, I have no idea. Robyn's acting like she's never heard this before. I think she's
Right.
pretending possibly that she's never heard this before. This whole
Yeah, she
confused
is.
thing is something that happens a lot, and I don't know. I don't know if it's for real or if she's just pretending that she's never heard anything before.
I don't know whether she's crazy or just stupid or she thinks I'm stupid or what. And that's how Janelle approached it. And I give Janelle a lot of credit. And one of the big takeaways from this is when you look at your personal life and you look at your situation, we have to understand that no matter how much you contribute to somebody, no matter how much you give to them, no matter what your intention is, if you're pouring into somebody who doesn't give a damn about you, your well-being, your safety, your security, it doesn't matter how much you pour into them and it doesn't matter what your intentions are because they will continually take everything that you make. They will continue to draw from you, and with your expenditure of time, resources, or whatever, you're not buying their loyalty. You're not buying their patience. You're not buying their understanding. The only thing you're doing is throwing good money after bad. You're wasting good time after poorly spent time. And that's where Janelle finds herself. And this is one of the things that I hope that Janelle not only learns from, but many of the people who surround Janelle, her kids, and some of the other kids can look at this and learn. And we, as people who view the show, can take note in Janelle's hard-learned lesson that you have to constantly evaluate your relationship to see where you are, and you have to constantly decide whether today is the day that you're going to continue or whether you're going to discontinue harmful or toxic relationships that you are pouring everything that you have into and you're getting nothing in return. That's my take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life right like